the telecom companies and the fact that they have huge dues to pay to the government in terms of AGR, adjusted gross revenue dues to the government. What does this actually mean now that the Supreme Court has made it clear that there is no question of any leeway and they need to pay up? Mukul Rohatgi, the Senior Counsel for Idea Vodafone, joins us now. Thanks very much, Mr. Rohatgi, for speaking to us. It's 50,000 crores which are the dues as far as Vodafone is concerned. At this juncture, will you be able to pay that?
See, firstly, Vishnu, the dues are not 50,000. On our self-assessment basis, we have found that the dues are 7,000 on principal, and there is penalty, there is interest, and there is interest on penalty, which will probably take it between 23 and 25,000. That's the first step. Second, there is no way that the company can pay 25,000 crores. This company in a JV with Vodafone has lost more than 2 lakh crores in the last 10 odd years, and whatever we could scrape the barrel in the last 2 days, we found that we have about 3,500 crores to pay. So I mentioned in the morning to the Supreme Court that we shall be paying this amount, which will probably be 50% of the principal amount as we see it, and we want to open a dialogue with the government to see how the balance can be paid in a structured fashion or in some installments, and the government should not rock the boat by encashment of bank guarantees, which if it does, the company will come to a close tomorrow. That's where we stand, and we have about 30 crore subscribers who will then have to shift to either of the two players who will remain in the market.
And how many thousand jobs would be lost if Idea Vodafone shuts down?
Well, more than 10,000 jobs will be lost, and if you calculate 4 to a family, then 50,000 people will take a hit on that. And mind you, this is not a case of the proverbial builder who may have defalcated monies and not given it to the customer. There is no such case here. This downtrend has occurred because of a myriad reasons, the government's policies in one, etc., etc., the judgment of the court, which has imposed a very, very heavy burden, and that's now a judgment of the Supreme Court, so there's no point going behind it. One has to honor it. The only way it can be sorted out is that the government should look at a structured approach and maybe have some installments to be paid by every 6 months, along with payment of spectrum, so that the company survives, it honors the judgment of the court, it pays that amount, and maybe the sun will shine after some time. That's
Mr.
the only
Rohatgi,
way that this will go forward.
There were some reports that Vodafone in the United Kingdom, under the burden of this huge tax due, had written off or was going to write off India as an ongoing concern. Is that still the present situation?
Well, more or less, Vishnu. I mean, after paying 3,500-4,000 crores, this company could survive if the other aspects or the other proponents don't rock the boat. But if you rock the boat, whether by bank guarantees or whether by insisting on a demand of the immediate amount, etc., as the government had done in a panic mode, asking payment before 11:59 p.m. on Friday, it will close. So it's obvious that Vodafone has lost about 2 lakh crores in this process. So it's clear that Vodafone UK or Vodafone, wherever it is based, is going to write off its Indian adventure or misadventure, if you may call it. And Idea is only a 27% partner, the major partner being Vodafone. So if all this money is gone down the drain, then there's no way that Vodafone is going to put in some more money.
So, Mr. Rohatgi, the Supreme Court had said, the Justice had said that how is it that a desk officer of the government and the telecom ministry had effectively stayed the order of the Supreme Court to pay, and it was on the basis of this order that all of you now need to pay this amount? So my question is, how did that actually take place? Was there, I mean, on what basis could any official overrule the Supreme Court?
Look, it is obvious that that letter was not worded correctly. It was not appropriately worded. As far as the companies are concerned, they had nothing to do with the letter. But obviously the companies have been telling the DOT that there is no way that they can pay this demand overnight or in a few days. And the government should also wake up to that situation. Otherwise, this sector, which is very, very stressed, will be left with only two operators. And two operators is like a semi-monopoly, which we call oligopoly. And that I don't think is good for competition. So maybe the government wanted to, hold back and not pull out all the stops on one day.
Right.
And the desk officer probably could not convey what really the government wanted. The government should have said, the desk officer should have said, please come across, sit across the table, tell us the dues, let us match the accounts, because 17 years have gone by. There is no clear, fixed, crystallized liability as yet, and therefore we could have a structured view. That's what the desk officer should have said, instead of saying that I direct or I state that no coercive steps should be taken. That's not his job. But maybe it's wrongly worded, it's inappropriately worded.
So,
but let me tell you, we have nothing to do with that letter.
Mr. Rohatgi, so where is the hope now? I mean, if you look at what the court has said even today, the court has said you have to pay. You are still hoping against hope that there is some leeway from the court, but now two consecutive hearings.
Vishnu.
So where is the hope? Is it from the government?
Yeah, so
Do you want the government to go to the court and say, look, we will sort it out, please accept this methodology of sorting things out? Is that where the hope lies?
Yeah, see, it's like this, that after doing a lot of introspection on the weekend, we came to the conclusion that the company can only afford to pay about 3,500 crores. So I made a statement to that effect in the court, and I didn't want any precipitate action to be taken by the government. The court did not respond, so we are where we are, that the hearing is now on 17th of March. But obviously we want the government to take a proactive view and look at the situation as to whether somebody can pay 20, 30, 40,000 crores, whatever the amount be, overnight. If this is demanded and the company is unable to pay, then obviously, you have to shut shop, the jobs are lost, 30,000 subscribers will do whatever, crore subscribers will do what they have to do, and I don't think it's a good scenario. So the judgment of the court can still be honored by giving reasonable installments, having a structured look at the sector and see what can be done. I mean, it's been done in the past. If you remember, in this very sector, about 20-25 years ago, in the Vajpayee government, if I'm not mistaken, when Mr. Arun Shuri was the minister, the license fee bid by all these players was so high that there's no way they could meet it. So the license fee regime was changed by the government in a proactive method to revenue share. This happened about 30 years ago, and that augured well for the system.
Right.
Now, the second option is that the government looked at the coal sector, and I was a part of it in the last 1.5 years. The coal sector was absolutely going down because of a judgment of the Supreme Court relating to import of Indonesian coal. Now the government realized that and proactively appointed a committee of a retired judge of the Supreme Court.
So I take the point, Mr. Rohatgi.
Who looked at the whole thing.
Sure. That there has to be some sort of...
unless Vishnu, unless the government comes along and is on the same page, looks at what we have to say, have some kind of a situation, then both of us can go to the court and say, look, the judgment will be honored, But some roadmap is required, some time is required. I'm optimistic that this can happen. But if it doesn't happen, then of course, you're facing a wall.
Well, Mr. Rohatgi, it's a frightening prospect for all of the families and employees of Vodafone and for so many others. And I think the larger question of our economy, how that would be affected, we didn't get into. But thank you, sir, very much for sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed. We're completely out of time on Trending this evening. It's time for us to take this short break.